Hello, my name's McInerney and I'm the author of many books for adults, but I'm here to talk about my first book for children, Marcie Gill and the Caravan Park Cat, with illustrations by Snell.
Hi, my name's Snell and I'm a children's picture book illustrator, and I did the illustrations for this book, Marcie Gill and the Caravan Park Cat, written by the wonderful McInerney.
The name Marcie Gill is actually a tribute to two people who are really special to me. The first, Marcie, is named after my Auntie Marcie, my mum's big sister. Auntie Marcie is 94 and I'm delighted to say that she was delighted to let me borrow her name. And she saw the book in manuscript form and then she got the very first copy that I was sent to. And thankfully she's really happy. And the Gill part of it is a tribute to another very dear friend of mine, and that's my dear friend Kristen Gill, who has been a great friend of mine for 34 years and encouraged me all the way through to write Marcie Gill. I'm very lucky that I have 18 nieces and nephews, and throughout their childhood and all the while that I was writing my adult novels, I was writing short stories for some of them, putting them in the starring roles. And one of those stories planted the seed for the story that became Marcie Gill and the Caravan Park Cat. I realised what I wanted to put into this book for children is all the ingredients I love to include in my adult novels. I write family comedy dramas with my adult novels, and this book is full of family, full of drama, full of comedy. The beautiful thing about writing for children, and in particular writing Marcie Gill, is that there is one special ingredient, and that is all sorts of magical happenings.
When I first read the manuscript for Marcie Gill, I was immediately taken back to summer holidays as a kid, hanging out at the beach, spending time holidaying in caravan parks. And that experience of striking up immediate friendships with the kids in the caravan next door and then heading off on an adventure or two just before dinner.
Marcie is sturdy and determined and earnest and also really, really curious. And I kind of borrowed a little aspect of my own personality for that. I recently found my very first school report for me as a 5-year-old, and in it the teacher had written, "Monica is extremely interested in everything." So I've given that personality trait to Marcie. She's very curious, she's got lots of questions for people, and it's those questions that helps all sorts of magical adventure begin.
Coming up with the characters for this book was a little different from usual. Most of the time I illustrate picture books, so there's a lot less text, and illustrations play a much larger role in telling the story and describing the characters. But Marcie Gill and the Caravan Park Cat is a novel, so it's got 30 chapters, it's quite a big book, and Monica's created quite a detailed setting, and there's lots of information about the characters for me to draw on. So really just my job is to encourage and coax those characters up and out of the page.
When I was first sent this gorgeous cover art by Snell, and I just love the whole look of it. He's made Marcie look more than I could have imagined. And I looked at this illustration of Marcie and George, and I thought, that's really familiar to me. And I thought about it, and I suddenly remembered a family photo that had been taken when I was about 5 or 6 with 2 or 3 of my brothers and sisters. We were all standing in front of a very, very bright sunlight, so we're squinting, and the bright light's too much for me, and I am doing that with my hands and recreating the cover pose that Marcie is in. So it just felt like this really beautiful omen that there was a photo of me doing just like Marcie. And I sent it to Snell, and he said he was lost for words because he hadn't seen that before he painted this gorgeous image.
For a long time I used to paint my picture books using acrylics. But more recently I've started using a computer to create my illustrations. And for Marcie Gill, I did the line work in pencil and then by hand, and then scanned that into the computer and used Photoshop to add the colour. I find using a computer speeds the process up a little bit, and also makes making changes a lot easier.
I wish I had had a cat talk back to me. I think that has been my, I would have loved that as a child. I grew up with lots of cats as pets, and I would love to have had the kind of conversations that Marcie has with George in the book. But I had something else a bit magical happen with the cat while I was editing the story, Marcie Gill. And I was unexpectedly living with my mum in Adelaide for 9 months after being stranded by COVID. And we adopted a little rescue cat. And when we went to the animal shelter, the only cat that was there was a little black-haired, very green-eyed kitten. And the cat in the book, George, is black-haired and very green-eyed. And it was almost like I'd conjured up a kitten to match the cat in the story. So he became a real part of the editing process for me. We called him Nicholas after my Irish great-grandfather. And Nicholas slept on the manuscript while I was trying to work on it. He walked around my desk while I was working on the book. And he's really become a part of the story. And I thank him in the acknowledgements. And I think if he could read, he would think it was all about him. The thing I would love young readers to take from the book, firstly, I'd love them just to be swept up in the story, in the fun, the adventure of it, the family drama, the family comedy, all the different ties and tensions in family life happen in this story too. As I said, there's all sorts of magical adventure too, but I think it's also really a story about kindness. It's a story about patience. It's a story about being part of a family and what that means. And it's also about dusting yourself off after a setback. Things don't go right. There are all sorts of things you can do to make things happen again. I am really happy to give the advice that I was given when I was a young aspiring writer. I wrote my first book when I was 8, actually, as a school project. And I had really good teachers, and what they always said to me is read all the time and write as often as you can. The way to be a writer is to write little stories, write little paragraphs about things you've noticed, use all your senses, describe what things look like and smell like and feel like, all the things that you can, and have fun with it. Really have fun letting your imagination go wild.
Marcie Gill and the Caravan Park Cat is a wonderful story, and I think at a time when everything's sort of been turned upside down and put on hold for all of us, stories like Marcie Gill provide an opportunity just to reset and reconnect with things that are important to us. Simple things like family, adventure, and just what it's like to be a kid again.